Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Church here in Fall River, Massachusetts. May we all welcome the Reverend Ken Reeves.
Good morning. Good morning. May peace be in your hearts. So the energy of freedom and the warmth of love, the fullness of being alive. In that fullness, find peace, with justice and understanding, may humanity be at peace, and may all of life on earth live together in balance and peace. Thank you for the song. I'm going to sit myself down and write myself a letter. For those of you who didn't know that. That's well, I think. Great. Thank you. Well, let's sing together a hymn that is in keeping with the theme of the sermon today, which has to do with a universalizing God, and it's reflected in this hymn. This is my song, number 159. This is my home, my country, here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. All other lives, in other lands are waiting, with hopes and dreams, as true and kind as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and vine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, O God of all nations, a song of peace that no man can hold. And I invite you to read together with me the affirmation for this church, printed in the order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. This is the time in our service for announcements.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see you all who are here today for this Sunday. Thank you for joining us down in Fortress. And I just wanted to let everyone know a couple of things. One is this card for Deborah going around. Please do sign it. She's in, Richard has, if you haven't already signed it, she's in Carolina facility in Bedford.
Who's someone who hasn't signed?
Deborah. She's so busy. And I also wanted to let everybody know that the next week, the question was that renewal meeting, we had a slightly shorter service. And some of them, but we'll be here. So it's coming through so long.
Martin Luther King potluck tomorrow night. And we realized last week when there was some possibility of canceling because of the storm, though we didn't, that there are some people whose phone numbers we don't have. So if we cancel, we can't call you unless you give Eric your phone number. Eric is the guy in the back. He's our patriarch. He's the person who wears spinning hats.
Just to let you know, the UIA, one of the efforts that they've been working on is to try to open up that facility down on Weaver Street, the new spa facility. And apparently it was successful with the court case, so they have lifted the injunction. We're waiting to find out whether the city is going to appeal that decision or not. But it seems like it is moving forward. And that would be an additional 30 beds of available services for people to be able to actually, have some time to recover from addiction. So that seems to be an improvement, just to let you know.
Congratulations, a lot of work for some years. Good job.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to expand a bit on the Martin Luther King Day activity tomorrow. So we're having a potluck set up at 5:30 and a meal at 6. We have a good array of food. We have Sam's meat pies, a vegetarian fried rice and meat fried rice, assorted cheeses, chicken, vegetables, potted beans, and some soft drinks. So, and some soup. So if any of you have something that you might be bringing, let me know. I'd like to make sure you're solving the products. So again, 5:30, and if you don't bring anything, that's okay too, because we always have more food than we need. So please come with or without a contribution of food. And also, if you are inclined, at 8:30 in the morning, Bristol Community College does an annual breakfast, which is free and open with all of the morning program. And the Bethel AME Church at noon also does more of a traditional gospel service. So that's it. a single flyer. If anyone wants to take it, to remind them. And hope that we'll all be there tomorrow at 5:30. What's that?
It doesn't sound as though you have dessert.
By the way, I should have mentioned, we'll probably have, it's unknown, but Sweet Rose Cafe
Oh, sure.
is going to give me whatever they don't sell today.
Okay.
So I dropped in coffee and I told her to make sure she doesn't celebrate. I'm going to go back at 3 o'clock to pick up
Sounds
the
great.
others.
Sounds great.
Jim?
I guess I'm next on the list. So we saw here, Never Like God, and the introduction from day one on the song. You okay where I'm standing?
Yeah, he went towards the,
Okay. Nancy was looking at songs to sing this, to do this week, and when she mentioned this one, so try that one. And I want to dedicate this to our friends Kevin and Debbie. Debbie Ross died about a month ago, and Kevin Ross. The first verse of the song cross, and I'm interpreting this as a burden that Debbie carried with her, that some people die fairly easy. This was a hard one. The second verse talks about darkness, and I'm afraid Kevin is kind of walking in darkness right now, so we're hoping that things can change there. A couple of other things was Kevin's guitar. About 20 years ago, he'd been playing in nursing homes, and he wanted another guitar, and he got one, and he said, "You need to get this guitar," so they sold it to me, and so it's Kevin's guitar here. So, and the last thing is, this song was supposedly being played by the band on the deck of the Titanic as it was going down, so hopefully we do a little better. But anyway, here we go. You're my God to thee. Nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee, even though it be this cross that raises me. Till all my song shall be nearer, my God, to thee, nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee. So like the wonder, the sun gone down, darkness be over me, I rest a stone. Still all my dreams shall be nearer, my God, to thee, nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee.
Jim. Well, it's an honor to be with you all this morning. I've been a visitor here a few times, and it's lovely to be back and see you all. It's an honor to be serving here this Sunday that honors, or the weekend that honors Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. I appreciate and admire how he kept on a call for love, kind of saying, you don't cure hatred with more hatred, you cure it with love. And he put this to the test one day during the Montgomery bus boycotts in 1955. He was at his church leading a service, and his home with his wife and daughter inside were bombed. And he came home, found his wife and daughter safe, but his house had some destruction, and his neighbors were outside pretty angry. And he offered an impromptu sermon reminding them of love and saying, we have to love each other, love others, and pray for those who persecute you. So even in the face of this attack, he remembered or called for this attitude, and I admire that. Well, we are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, which means that we are, I think, a support community for people on various journeys towards ultimate goals, such as love or peace or union. And one of the ways we support each other is by reminding ourselves of the support that exists. There's something inside, maybe something external, maybe coming from other people. Support is there. And often people symbolize this support with God. It's like they coalesce all the support that happens in the world and say it is about God. And that's one way to be religious in the world. A lot of Western religions especially focus on the divine. Islam, Judaism, Christianity, there's a lot of emphasis on the divine. Some Eastern religions focus a little bit more on the journey, like Buddhism has the Eightfold Path. It's less focused on the divine, more focused on the journey towards enlightenment. Today's service focuses more on the divine, the letter from God. As you would guess, I have another sermon about the spiritual journey for another day. And the sermon reflects something of the history of God. There's an idea that God has had three eras. There was the incarnate God, the ontological God, and the functional God. And the incarnate God was walking around on earth, making things happen, often polytheistic, many gods, involved in human affairs. The ontological God, that God's being was very important. Ontology has to do with being. This God was often out of the earth, more in the sky, more unified, still involved in human affairs, and God's being was very important. Like, do you believe in God? It's a key question about God's being. And then starting in the 20th century, theologians started to talk about God in more functional ways. Being was less important, more what is God doing? God is a ground of being, or God is a connecting or supporting spiritual source. And that was more the functional God. And my sermon touches on these three eras of God. It is a little unconventional and unorthodox. So, okay. But somewhat that's our tradition. And I offer my service today out of my caring for you and my desire to support you in your spiritual lives, however you live those spiritual lives. I hope that in your spiritual lives you find love and freedom and live the full richness of being alive. My reading has to do with God. It's a passage from Song of Myself by Walt Whitman, who writes, I hear and behold God in every object, yet understand God not in the least. Nor do I understand who there can be more wonderful than myself. Why should I wish to see God better than this day? I see something of God each hour of the 24 and each moment then. In the faces of men and women, I see God. and in my own face in the glass, I find letters from God dropped in the street, and everyone is signed by God's name. And I leave them where they are, for I know that wheresoe'er I go, others will punctually come forever and ever. We people can talk about God, which is fine. We can also talk to God, which is prayer. And so, O God, O Spirit, O Source, be with us this morning. Remind us of your presence. Remind us of your support. Grant us that peace and comfort from knowing you are there. Amen. I'd like to sing a nice Unitarian Universalist hymn, Bring Many Names, which reflects the various ideas that people have about God, and it is number 23. Strong Mother God, working night and day, planning all the wonders of creation, setting each equation, genius at play, and sorrow, strong Mother God. Warm Father God, loving every child, feeling all the strains of human life, caring and forgiving, to reconcile, hail and Hosanna, warm Father God. O King God, great with endless care, calmly piercing evil's disguises, plan of gruesome rises, wiser than despair. Hail and Hosanna, thy King God. Young growing God, eager still to know, willing to be changed by what you started, quick to be delighted, sing as you go. Hail and Hosanna, young growing God. Great living God, never fully known, joyful darkness far beyond our seeing, closer yet than breathing, everlasting home. Hail and Hosanna, great living God. Thank you. I found this letter dropped in the street. It reads, "My dear beloved people, how is everything going?" Of course, I already know, but I'd like to ask, I care about you and want to listen. To fill you in on my doings, it's a mix. I am eternal and evolving. My evolution began when you were just beginning to be people, some 130,000 years ago. It seems like just yesterday I watched you stand up straight and say your first words. When you began to speak, you became aware of yourselves. And with self-awareness, you found yourselves separate from the earth, the water, the animals. Lonesome then for a dimly remembered pre-conscious oneness, you told stories of a time when all was a formless oneness, like the sea, and how there then emerged out of the sea earth, trees, animals, each separate, distinct, and how you were one of the many distinct new things. But to reconnect back with the water, trees, earth, animals, you remember it in stories when all was one, and thought of me as the creator. In your hunter-gatherer clans, I helped you make sense of the mysteries of the world by being a spirit animating nature. I was God of the south wind, or the God who blew the wind. I gave animals supernatural powers. Within a bird, I made the snow. Sometimes I caused calamity. I was a petulant storm god. Or I could be the spirit of an ancestor doing good or mischief. Back then, village shamans communicated with me via trances, fasting, and prayer. They stepped out of their control, took a risk, and knocked on the door of the infinite to find me. When you formed larger groups, I empowered your chiefs. Those who succeeded in war and peace were seen as favored by me. Less favored chiefs were replaced. I was good news, bad news for the chiefs. When you formed larger societies, I multiplied into many forms to support people's functions. Cooks, brickmakers, brewers, gardeners, hairdressers, thieves, and inspectors of canals. Everybody had their own God. They had me as their God. As your communities grew into the hundreds of thousands, you needed law and order, and I helped. I was cosmic lawmaker, judge, jury, prosecutor, and punisher. You obeyed me and worshiped me to gain rewards and avoid punishments. I was human in character, sometimes cruel, sometimes kind, but with supernatural powers, intervening everywhere and involved in everything. As Dionysus, I drank wine and instigated riots. As Zeus, I philandered. As Demeter, I walked the earth, urging crops to grow. Indeed, I was female. As the great goddess, I was warm and soft as a mother. In my honor, people carved goddess figurines of me. After trying many forms, I coalesced into one. For ancient Babylon, I was Marduk. In Egypt, as the god Amun, I won some battles and became preeminent. In Canaan, I was El, who evolved with the Hebrews into Yahweh. As one people's God, I would wage war against an enemy people's God. We gods would wage gory battles, slaying enemy gods and their people. I was an ultimate weapon and a blessing for cruelty. I shudder to think of all the killing done in my name. It's like having a job you know is unethical but have trouble quitting. Those warriors gave me lots of power, and power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I had absolute power. I was dangerous. So I began to make my enemies into my friends. That was difficult, but I am God. When trade was better for people than war, I helped by making peace with the neighbor God and that God's people. So while once I invited Israel to plunder the enemy Moabites, in the book of Ruth, I helped welcome Ruth, a Moabite, into a loving Hebrew family. In your own lives, when you have moved from hatred to softening and compassion, I am there. I have done the same. And I love it when you make peace as I have made. I live in connections and I flourish in peace. Although I am more peaceful, some politicians and leaders, even today, have taken my place to be worshipped as demigods of cruelty. Although I support love, the cruel side to humanity remains, which these demigods represent. I continue to support peace, such as by expanding my caring from one nation, such as Israel, to all nations. I offered Noah, after the flood, a rainbow as a sign of an everlasting covenant between God and every living creature. To take this support further, I took a new form, became human, to see how it feels to have a body and to hurt. I let myself be punished to atone for the violence in my name and to show people I was on their side in their pain and that I did not want to hurt but to love. And some people understood, and what a relief. Indeed, a model of love supported your love for each other, which did you good. At about that time, my existence became important to people. For example, in the 1200s, Thomas Aquinas wrote 5 proofs for the existence of God. Thanks, Thomas. Do you believe in God? Was a popular question. People who doubted me were threatened with hell. I mean, what a notion that the ultimate source of meaning in life would create a torture chamber for people who did not believe in an ultimate source of meaning in life, who tortured people. To help humanity further toward peace, some 400 years ago, I helped the Unitarians in Transylvania write the world's first edict of religious tolerance. Now it is common for countries to allow differing faiths to coexist. And furthermore, I told the Universalists, please tell the people I love you all. And threats of eternal punishment have quieted. To continue to bring peace and to bring myself yet closer to people, I'm reminding some of you of when I was the goddess, and they celebrate my loving quality. Women in particular sense their feminine spirit valued. So the beard is off, the hips on. In truth, I have qualities you call masculine and others you call feminine, and I'm a genderless transcendent spirit. But if being female brings women or anyone closer to me, I'll be female. I'll take whatever form attracts you to what is ultimately meaningful and liberating in your lives. When you move toward that source, your hearts are filled, your needs met, you are whole and at peace. You know you are loved. You know you belong. I like taking the form of a woman, but I'm breaking out of forms altogether. I am breaking out of being a being. I'm more mysterious than the picture of me on the Sistine Chapel or of the goddess figurines. I told the theologian Martin Buber that I'm not a being, that I can't be defined, but that with my grace, people connect. moments of graceful connection, people do not teach, compete, impress, influence. They do nothing with each other except encounter each other. Their two beings make contact in a moment of peace and meaning that makes them pause in awe. And I am there, serving a divine function, providing grace that brings people together. I'm also beginning to symbolize the oneness and interdependence of life. You're seeing the world as an interdependent web of connections, and that along these connections, life flows. From water, trees, air, animals, each other, you receive life. Your connections to all are such a source of life that you find me in them, and rightfully so. My scope takes in the cosmos, but I also see and love you. I am with you as a support. I give you vitality. I offer acceptance. I link you to everything. As you open to me, you'll realize I'm there. I want closeness with you, but not to be idolized. I mean, how do I make myself into a warm, personal, inviting form without being limited by that form? I mean, when people worship my form, my shell, as if that were the be-all to end-all, I want to say, I'm more mysterious than that. But when I eschew forms, and a theologian like Paul Tillich says that I'm the ground of being or humanity's ultimate concern, people complain that I'm cool and aloof. You don't feel worn by an abstract ground of being or ultimate concern. And I care about you and don't want to appear cool and aloof. But I don't want you stuck on a nice form and a pretty face. I want you to find the real, ineffable me. So I take on forms like the God of Thieves or Noah's rainbow covenant for all. Can these forms and ideas beckon you beyond them to experience the mystery? I am busy beckoning. I have cut back on some chores, though. I used to manipulate events in the world. That was too much work and never yielded the spiritual results I had hoped. Trying to take care of people's needs by giving them every little thing they wanted made me into a cosmic valet. People were dependent, and I was codependent. Now I let the world run on its own. Though I don't make the world right for everyone, when the world wounds, I heal. You might remember in your darkest hour glimpsing a ray of light. That was me. Furthermore, I give people strength and courage for them to heal the world. I stand as an ally to individuals healing and to world healers. And I offer healing and wholeness. Memories of my old violence and judgment linger. So I heal our relationship by taking new forms and offering new ideas about me. And new ideas can heal our relationship, but I realize ideas can also hurt. They hurt when people think that they have a wrong idea about me. They then consign themselves to the bottom of a spiritual hierarchy where they imagine me punishing them. I don't want to punish, I want to love. Ideas also hurt my relationship with people when someone thinks they have such a good idea about me that it's better than other people's. Good ideas about me bring people closer to each other and to me. They do not divide spiritual winners from losers. I mean, my cosmos is not a pyramid, but an interdependent web of equals, where I love and bless everyone equally and infinitely. The third problem with ideas about me is that they are not me. I transcend ideas. Indeed, this is not really a letter from God. This is a letter from an idea about God. I could not write a letter. I could not use words. As the Hindus put it, I am the one from whom all words recoil. Start speaking words and you distinguish one thing from another, but I am about oneness, the formless ocean before the world is created, and oneness has neither boundaries nor categories, and as such defies words. Furthermore, when I'm named by a name or an idea, that just makes me into one more object in a world of objects. But I am not an object. I transcend objects. On the other hand, the ultimate can only become actual to people through the concrete, through words, ideas, and forms. I hope they work. They do if they bring you to know how loving I am. I remember your first words. I loved you when you started to walk. And if you knew how much I love you, you could say yes to me and open to me and trust me. And when you open to me, you might sense me in moments where you have no words. In the cool night air, I am whispering to you. In the infinitude of stars whose light moving at 186,000 miles per second has taken millions of years to reach you. In the warmth that comes over you in the presence of one you love, in the surprise, aha, of a new insight, in your sense of well-being and peace, in your healing and slow wholeness. You might sense me in the mysterious coming together of your church community. You might hear me in the silence, see me in the darkness, taste me on your palate as you breathe. You might see me in another's face and know me when you love another person. You might see me in your own face in the glass. You might sense my face turn towards you. My face always turns towards you. There I am, smiling at you, curious about you. And when you are lost, you might sense my hand groping to find you. Your face will be wet with your tears, and I will find you then and tell you I love you. And it's signed by God's name. One of the ways also that we support each other is by sharing our financial resources so that we can pool together and have this building in the community. And so for that, let's take the offering. Thank you, Nancy, for that epistolary music. Well, may we pause in meditation in our silence. May we offer those who have a joy or concern, something we may celebrate together, or something for which you would like the healing energy of our shared meditation, a chance to express themselves.
Good morning, Dale. Just wanted to say, Reverend Reeves, one of the most creative, unique sermons I think I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Treasure. I just wanted to share that in the game of life, I was dealt a handful of aces. Aces are adverse childhood experiences. And I never learned how to cope appropriately. Finally became clear to me that there was ineffective coping in my life. Anyway, I've been sober a couple of years and I've had time to develop new coping skills. And I'm really joyful about that because it's made my life so much easier. Thank you.
Yeah, I found the last part of the talk really interesting. I've been reviewing the Catechism of the Catholic Church. I have done it in 60 years, right? And it's the new one, so I guess the old one was the Baltimore. And I'm looking at the sort of the differences between the old one and the new one. And, but it was fascinating. I just went, this past week, went through a part where they talked about that God created the Word, right? And created at the very beginning of creation, right? But the Word wasn't words, right? The Word was not even a syllable. It was an utterance, right? The utterance with a capital U. And it was fascinating because your talk sort of, meshed with it a little bit in actually saying that the Word, right? And so this is Catholic theology now, which I never, all my life, I never even knew that this was in there, right? So the Catholic theology was that, in essence, God is completely undefined and undefinable. But the Word is the experience, and I guess, and then the theology then progresses to that, the divine, the Son is the complete expression of that Word in human form, which also leaves the idea that there's multiple infinite other forms, right? So this is just one form, which then allows us to sort of relate to it, right? Whatever it is. So it's fascinating, So I guess there is a unified kind of idea that God, the Creator, or whatever it is, the source, is completely, outside of the bounds of human consciousness or understanding.
Appreciate that theology, the theological reflection.
I have a joy and concern. My joy is I finally found a solution to my hernia. All the testing has been done, and on Tuesday, they're finally going to make the decision to take care of my hernia and continue with the other operations with my shoulder. My heart condition is dwindling down, where they're going to have to go in and replace my defibrillator, which they don't know how to do. They put it in, but they don't know how to do it after 23 years. Unfortunately, my flesh grew in around the box and the wires, so the flesh is there, and they don't know how to take it out, as they told me the other day, without damaging all the other stuff, because they've never done this. They put it in 23 years ago, but never thought of the idea of having to pull it out and be safe, not nick the heart. So on Tuesday, I'll get some confirmation on that in my hernia and stuff, but at least I'm going in the right direction. I'm feeling blessed to be able to come here in my church and be blessed here every Sunday with my family, because at one time I wanted to give up because this is just too much for me to deal with all by myself. The pain, everything that's going in, the decision making. So your prayers are in my heart, and I'll be there in this little part of my heart with that little AA battery that keeps it ticking. And I'll definitely have everyone in my heart. Thank you.
Well, the closing hymn is, in a way, another, I imagine it as another divine voice that is seeking to comfort and be with us. And it's hymn number 409, Sleep, My Child. Thank you to Nancy and Jim and Donald and everybody for being part of the service today. I think faith is one's acceptance of God's acceptance of you. May we have that faith. Amen.